Hi everyone, I'm growing hydroponic tomatoes again using the Kratky method, this time in a 5-gallon tote. In my previous adventure, I grew the tomatoes in smaller containers, and while I got a nice crop of tomatoes, the plant was not happy in its cramped quarters. So I went to Home Depot and picked up a storage bin. They call these totes. This is a 5-gallon tote, which I think will be good for 2 tomato plants. I'm using these seeds from Burpee. They are called bush steak, and they are supposed to be on the shorter side, growing only 20 to 24 inches. I'm using the 3-inch net cups I usually use, so when I was at Home Depot, I bought a 3-inch hole saw to fit on our drill. I took the net cup with me to match up against the drill bit just to make sure. I laid the net cups out to see how they would best fit on the cover, and I decided it made the most sense to have one on each side diagonally across from each other. And then I started drilling. I wasn't too sure what I was doing. This was my first time drilling with a hole saw, and although I've drilled a hole here and there, I don't have that much experience with a drill. I saw some tips on the internet because, of course, I did a search on YouTube, and I put some of those tips to good use. And that is to drill into the plastic until the saw bites into it, and then reverse the direction of the saw. It didn't quite work for me, probably because I wasn't pressing down hard enough, but I kept reversing back and forth, and then I turned the cover over and did it from the back again and back and forth until finally I broke through the plastic and I have my 3-inch hole. The next hole I drilled went much more smoothly. This time I had more confidence and pressed down a little harder as I was drilling. And now I have 2 holes to fit 2 3-inch net cups perfectly. Now I'm ready to fill the tote with hydroponic solution. I'm using the Master Blend formula, and the directions on the package are for 5 gallons, which is perfect. I have an old milk jug here. This is a 1-gallon jug, so I can use that to measure out 5 gallons of water and add the Master Blend to it. The instructions say to add 12 grams of calcium nitrate, which is approximately 2 teaspoons, to 5 gallons of water. Then you dissolve it completely, add 12 grams of Master Blend, and then 6 grams of Epsom salt. So to get started, you should have a scale. This one is pretty accurate, and it cost me about $20 from Amazon. I put a paper plate on the scale to put the chemicals onto. So since the paper plate weighs something, you need to zero out the scale with the plate on it, and then measure out your ingredients. After I zeroed out the scale, I set the units to measure in grams. I'm going to mix the Master Blend formula first, then the Epsom salt, and then the calcium nitrate. I find that by mixing them in that order, rather than the order that is printed in the instructions, the chemicals will dissolve and mix better. I also use lukewarm water, and that also helps to dissolve the chemicals. So I started by measuring out the Master Blend, 2 teaspoons onto a plate until the scale showed 12 grams. Then I poured it into the gallon jug of warm water and shook it up. Next I measured out 6 grams of the Epsom salt and poured it into the gallon of water and shook it up. And then lastly I mixed in the calcium nitrate, 12 grams, and added that to another gallon of water and shake again. Each time I poured it into the tote, and then I added 2 more gallons of water for a total of 5 gallons. I've tried different ways of mixing, but I find when I do it in this order, the Master Blend first, then the Epsom salt, and then the calcium nitrate with lukewarm to warmish water, then the ingredients blend very nicely. At this point I realized that 2 holes is good for the plants, but how am I going to add nutrients or check the water level? I'm going to need 1 more hole, so I drilled a 3rd hole, which I keep covered up to block out the light. After I finished mixing up the ingredients, I took a pH reading of the water, and it was at 6.0. Tomatoes like a pH range of between 5.5 and 6.8. My water is usually around there, so I didn't have to adjust it, and I left it alone. These seedlings are 2 weeks old. Remember, these are the burpee bush steak variety. I've got 3 bush steak seedlings here and 2 cucumber seedlings. So I'm going to use 2 of the tomato seedlings and transplant them into this tote. And I just place 1 seedling in each hole, simple as that. I filled it around with clay pebbles to give the plant support and also to help block out some of the light. And then I set the tote under a 6500 Kelvin light. This one is LED that I also bought at Home Depot. It's now 2 weeks later and you can see the tomato plants are doing quite well. Well, that is my new hydroponic Kratky setup for tomato plants. And I also use the same setup for my cucumber plants. The plants are doing great now. I will video them as they're growing and I will update you once they bear fruit. I've been staying with small containers for Kratky up until now, either mason jars or Folgers coffee containers, and they've served me well with the lettuce plants and other leafy greens, but tomatoes and cucumbers seem to want more space. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And thank you for watching. Bye.